Hey, 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 it's that time again. I'm the Professor of Perseverance, and welcome to the podcast, Professor of Perseverance podcast. And again, I'm Dr. James Purdue. Hey, don't take that doctor too serious. I can't write out a prescription for you, but I can drive you to go pick up your prescription if you need me to. So today we got a guest on talking about her lifelong disability. She is an author of multiple books, and we'll get to those here in just a minute. But Michaela Cox, she's going to talk about her long-term disability with her travel experience and how now she's a new struggling life as a widow and a solo mother. So, welcome to the show, Michaela. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you again. Appreciate you coming in and everything. And hey, let's go ahead and just to open up, let everybody see your books here at the beginning here. Heartfelt Meditations. Hey, want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yes, that was my collection of poetry that I got out in 2011. So
Good deal. You're a poet. The people say I'm a poet and didn't know it, but no, really, I'm not a poet, but I still don't know it.
I'm
So,
a free verse poet. I don't do the iambic. I can't rhyme and do the meter and all that stuff like you would see in classic literature. I do what's called
okay.
verse.
All right. And then here's another book. Take a sip. Take a sip, take a breath, and go.
Yes, that's the companion book that went with the first book in my motherhood series, and I hope to have book 2 and 3 out this fall for that series.
There we go. Yeah, we talked about earlier how you're a worker. So before the clock strikes midnight.
That one I did for my kids, but it also developed into what I think might be helpful for parents as they're going through their journey raising their kids about what they might want to instill in their children. So, and
All right, good.
there's resources at the back as well.
All right, awesome. And then living the beach life.
That was just I was at the North Carolina summer 2018 with my kids, and I'm a beach person. I'm a water girl. I love it. I get inspired, and it just things came into my head, and I had a book outline with 20 minutes. I'm like, I guess I'm supposed to write it then. So I came home and I wrote it. And it's just things that I was thinking about how what we can learn from how you live at the beach and how it relates to life. And it's kind of the first dive into me talking about my life's journey a little bit in those chapters. So,
Yeah, but it's life lessons there
mhm.
learned from you from surfing the wave of life
Yep.
is a subtitle. So, all right. Again, thank you for being on here. And so let's go ahead and get started. Your lifelong disability, and what is that, and how have you been able to dealt with that throughout life?
Um, I was I was originally from Houston, Texas. I was born in '78, and I was in November, so it was close to the holidays. And you do things with your kids, or infants are very usually stimulated by different things. And so my mom thought I would like to look at the Christmas lights on the tree in December, I guess, but I never noticed them. So she knew something was up. Like, why is my newborn not noticing these pretty lights no matter what she did? So they took me in to get looked at, and my pediatrician thought that were having visual issues. So they sent me to a specialist, and come to find out, I was totally blind at the time. Um, Then I got my official diagnosis in February of '79. And I'm sure if anyone in your audience can do good math, unlike me, they're probably figured out I'm fixing to be 43. So I've been doing this my whole life. In my family and background, because we're religious based, we're Christians and, followers of that path, believe that at 7 months old, I was regained most of my sight, like, because I can see now, like I see, but it's still impaired. So compared to where I was at, I was granted my sight, even though it's still impaired. And then most of my adult life, based off of, if anyone who's in the medical field know about visual acuity charts, my visual acuity, according to American law definition, is made meets the standards for legal blindness. And so I've done everything my whole life under the guise of having to figure out the world in different ways and outside of the box thinking to get around still wanting to choose to be a productive individual despite having the hand that was dealt to me.
So you were considered or are still considered legally blind?
Yes.
All right. So I got a good friend that she's been on the show as well, and she's legally blind as well. So she
Yeah.
may pop in on us today.
All
So
right.
we'll see. Her name is Nancy. Okay, so I asked this dumb question one time. This is years ago when I was in college, and I met my roommate had was born with cerebral palsy, and I asked him one time this dumb question. I said, "Do you miss walking?" And he says, "How can you miss what you never had?" So
Exactly.
I almost asked the same question here to you. Do you miss not being able to see correctly? But if you haven't seen exactly correctly, you're legally blind. That is your so-called norm then.
Yes, I've never taken a breath or lived a day where my vision was not either gone or impaired.
All right.
Never will
So
because it's not correctable.
it's not correctable.
No.
Okay. All right. So, hey, here we go. Got someone in here. Here we go. Loretta Hill Wallace. Hey, thank you for coming in. And hello to you as well. And so, appreciate you hopping in, Loretta. And so, all right. Now, what how to me you seem to be a go-getter. We talked before the show here, and you just seem to be going after everything, writing your books, getting them published, getting them out there, trying to help other people. So were you like that as a youngster growing up? Did you hold yourself back because your limitation with your eyes? Did you have friendships that
I struggled socially, but I've always been a hard worker. I was raised with the philosophy of you do your best, you work hard, you do what you have to do, and you see where it goes. And as long as you're doing your best, you're good, and you don't ever give up.
That's what I like to hear. Don't give up and persevere throughout life. So that's why we got the professor of perseverance. So we're going to persevere throughout life. Now, mom and dad growing up with you, did they put you in a bubble basically? Did they with your eyesight, or did they say, "Hey, she's got to do the best she can. We'll protect her, so she don't really get hurt. But
Yeah,
other than that, let's let her try to live the best life that we can."
that's what they did in Texas in the 80s because that's where I lived. I lived in Texas until 88 when we moved to Louisiana. I guess the philosophy in the field of education was exclusion. And if I don't know if there's any educators listening in know what I'm talking about, but where you exclude to keep out of the mainstream to for whatever reason that philosophy existed back then. So the school wanted me excluded and my mom fought to have me included. So I was always included in the regular classroom. I was never excluded.
That's amazing. In the 80s, 88, you say 88?
Well, I moved 88 to Louisiana, but I was in school because I was born in 78. So my education started in like 84, 85.
All right. It's still in the mid 80s. It's amazing that they were still that far back to do exclusion instead of inclusion.
Well,
That's
like I said, that
amazing.
was in Texas. I don't know if that was nationwide. I just know that was what they were trying to do in Texas in my
Well,
case.
yeah, that's what I was saying in Texas, that they would be that far back. That's amazing. So I'm sure they, with your mother fighting for you, they have learned to get more up to date. So I'm glad that your mother was able to stand up for you for that.
Yes.
So, all right. Now you said that hard having a social life or whatnot. So did you have people, and I'm sure this happens everywhere, you have bullies
Oh yeah.
because you're different.
Yes.
And then of course did you have real good special friends that they overlooked your eyesight?
Yes, I did. And I got more as I got into high school, but most of my K through 12th grade was challenging socially. But you get through it. You
You get
persevere.
through it. There we go. We persevere. Thank you. And so, as I need to have a bell over here, ding, 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 ding. You said the word persevere, so I need to give a bell. That you just brought me up a new point here. All right. So I mean, this is awesome. That again, I just love interviewing people that have not let their disability or their tragedy set back. I mean, it's Dr. Willie Jolly. He said setback is just a setup for to go, and so it's similar to that. I'm paraphrasing. So, all right, now, so what got you into writing your books?
I've always written. I've never remember not writing. It's what I do. It's who I am. If I'm not writing, I'm thinking about it. I even in 4th grade, I was writing poetry. It's not the stuff that I wrote in that book, but it was the foundation to leading me down the path of writing. And I was a little bit of a weird kid. I somehow got the idea in my head in 2nd grade to write an editorial and submit it to my local newspaper. Who does that in 2nd grade? I don't know, but I did. So I've always written. That's just who I am. I don't have a lot of, I don't want to say I don't have options, but I have to find ways of giving myself opportunities, and I've always used my words to do that.
And words can fight and win a lot of battles where we
Yes,
don't necessarily need the other stuff battling. People today just don't understand that people can disagree. Doesn't mean there has to be conflicts of fighting, but we're
correct.
we're allowed to disagree. And words is what keeps us together, even though we can disagree with other things. But the words can keep us, together and giving everybody the expression to fight out their own terms with words. So
Well, we all have voices, we all have messages, we all have stories, and we should all be able to share them and have the freedom to do so and have the space and the ability to express them.
I would encourage anyone, disability or not, with the so-called normal, everybody should be writing at least one book of their life, just so your experiences can be passed down to the next generation, whether it's your children and then grandchildren, and to keep those. I wish this stuff was so much easier today. I wish it was here 40 years ago when my grandparents were around, so I could have got their stories to
Right.
keep alive, for generations to come. Again, whether, and I don't have kids, I'm not married, I don't have children, but somebody again was stumbling across these books and they're going to go, wow, they lived like that and did that,
Yeah.
and to see where we've come. So I wish that this stuff was just so much 40 years ago was so much easier.
Well, that's
So
why history's so important, and that's why I've always been a great lover of history, and that was part of my undergraduate and graduate level education. When I was an undergraduate, I got a BA in sociology, double minor in English and history. No, I cannot just do one thing. And in graduate school, I got my master's in political science and American government with an ancient classical history certificate.
and I can see with you talking about all your writing, that those classes where there's a lot of writing involved,
Yes,
that would be your forte. Now,
definitely.
I got into education and got my bachelor and master's and got a doctorate in education, but I didn't care to write the dissertation and everything. I
Yeah,
did it because it was had to, and but my couple of books I've did because again I've learned, let's try to help other people
right,
is my main thing. Is why I wrote a couple of mine.
right.
Now
I did.
you've got
I
6
had,
books.
yeah, I had no desire to do a dissertation. A thesis was enough. I'm like, nope, I'm good.
There you go. Well, actually,
Fine.
when I did my master's, I was supposed to have wrote a thesis through there, but then someone told me, "Oh, they got this other master's thing. You just take one extra course, and you don't have to write a thesis." And I'm going, "That's what I'm taking right there." And
Probably
then, of course,
comps. Was it comps?
well, no, I still had to do comps
Okay, because
at the end
some
of it.
programs, when some of my friends were going through it, they could choose the thesis track or they could go comps. But right now, I don't know many. I don't know many graduate programs that are actually offering comps anymore. But I don't know.
I don't think they ought to have the comps to try to prove. You got to go back and try to prove what you learned or whatever. No, that's why I took the classes.
Yeah,
And I've made the grades, so I proved that I know it. And so the other comps, and plus when I did my doctoral, I had to take I forgot what it was called, quals. It was called quals that you had to take. It's like a midterm before you get into your dissertation. And so
uh,
again, same thing. You had to prove that you knew what you're doing. But wait a minute, I've already passed A's and everything already, and so you
right.
still had to do that. And it's I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
So
makes
oh
sense.
well, oh well, had to do what we call play the game, right?
I was just fixing to say, play the game.
That's right. You got to play the game. So all right, now then, so and through your high school, through college, you end up finding a loved one. You got children, and so how did all this work out
Well, the
with your
first one,
disability or whatnot?
I got divorced at 26. That was an
There
interesting.
you go. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. We make mistakes.
Yeah, well, it was his mistake, not mine. But anyway,
There you go. There you go. It's a way to look at it.
hey, they're
It's
exes.
his loss.
Yeah, there's exes for a reason. But so after that, that was 2005. I was 26. So then, not long after that, I ended up meeting the love of my life, and then we got married in 07, and then we moved to New Hampshire because that's where his military career took him. And then, unfortunately, in 2017, we lost him. So I'm like you said, a widow and a solo mom. But the disability is interesting because it stays the same in the sense that it's the same thing I've always had, but with each new stage and phase in life brings new challenges. So it's kind of, even though it's the same disability, it's always evolving as far as what you have to do to get around it and come up with new things. So, it kind of keeps things interesting.
Now let's get into the part because I know with Nancy, and again she's legally blind, and she's giving her story on my podcast, and but she was, I don't know if she called it like tunnel vision. She could see around, but she couldn't see peripheral.
I don't have
So
real either, but it's decent. It's just not the best.
it's with your eyesight is I mean, what can you see or can't see, or
It's
is it all just blurry?
No, it's not all
Or
blurry. It's complicated in the sense there's a lot of aspects that go into play with mine, and it also has a lot to do with, is it at night? Is it in the daytime? Have I been working all day? Is it good contrast or not good contrast? Is it the right coloring? Is it the right size? But aside from all that mess, what mine is, um, it's called optic nerve atrophy. What means my optic nerve is totally screwed up, meaning
mm-hmm.
if you were to see an anatomy and physiology, I guess, chart or picture of what the optic nerve is supposed to look like, mine is nothing like that. I believe from what I've seen and been told that most people's optic nerves are purple and a certain shape. Mine is the color of a vanilla folder and not the right shape. So, from my understanding, what that means is it does not allow the bloodstream to come through the way it's supposed to, which means the receptors don't process in the information and tell my brain what it's supposed to be seeing, like it would be for a normal person. Like it doesn't process it the correct and normal way because the optic nerve can't allow it to go through the way it's supposed to. I'm sure there's might be medical professions in your audience that might be like, she is really not explaining this correctly. Well, I'm not a doctor and I don't know the jargon. So sorry if I'm botching that. So I don't know if in the way I understand it and the way that I explained it, if that makes sense to you.
It makes a lot of sense with me because again, if you're not getting the blood flow through like you're supposed to, which means you're not getting the nutrients and everything to help keep everything alive and everything, and so which means also you're not getting the same signals from
Yes.
A to B to be able to recognize and see the same thing. And I explained that with spinal cord injuries. Of course, nowadays these youngsters today, they don't understand what a landline phone is, the old landlines. It's all cell phone. Yeah, they're all cell phones nowadays. But I used to explain when I taught that I would go, your phone at home, it's carried on from someone's house to a line to
Mm-hmm.
your house. And it's the same thing we have from our brain. The spinal cord is the line, and it's junked out to the arms and legs and every part of the body. So with
Reality.
mine, I tell them that the line has been damaged,
Yep.
cut, and so I can't get that signal all the way through like it's
Right.
supposed to. So to me, with you explaining, you're basically saying because of your the atrophy and everything, it's not getting the nutrients, the blood flow, so which means it's interrupting the signals, not
Yeah.
going from A to B.
And it takes longer. So that's why it may finally come through, but it may take me longer to focus or see it come through. And that's why it takes me, I don't know, let's say someone reads 5 pages in 30 minutes. It may take me 2.5 hours. It takes me longer to go through things. So,
All right, we got Diana. Pat, thank you for coming in. Appreciate you. You've been a great supporter this week for me. I appreciate it. And this is Michaela Cox today, talking about her disability and how she's overcome it. Now, has there been a time through your life because of not being able to see so called normal? Have you just been so frustrated that you've been, depressed?
I think I do just struggle. I don't think it's what would be considered clinical depression. I think it's, and I don't want to say seasonal because there is a real thing of seasonal depression, but I think it's what I've talked to with my counselors when I've been in therapy. I don't want to say episodic or episode, but it's circumstance based. So if I'm having a hard time, then yeah, anyone can get depressed over certain things. But and this is probably one of the things that I've learned the most throughout my life. One of them, I kind of have four things that I think apply to most things in life. Um, Life is a choice. It may be a hard choice, and I'm not discounting what people go through, and I'm not saying it's easy to do it, but it still comes down at the end of the day of you have a choice, whether you choose it or not, and which one you choose is your business, but it still comes down to a choice. And what I mean by that is we may not be choose the deck of cards, the hand we were dealt, or what cards we get, or if you're an artist, you may be told when you're doing a job you have to use these materials. But even as an artist, with whatever materials you're given, you choose what you put on that canvas or how you use those materials. When you're given that hand of cards, if you're playing poker or some other card game, you get to choose which card you play and how strategically you play it. So in life, even though I didn't ask for the disability, I didn't ask to have an interesting first marriage, and I definitely didn't ask for my husband to pass away. I, even though didn't have choice in those situations, what I call my 38 triple D, disability, divorce, and death by the age of 38. But I do very much in control of and have power over and responsibility to what I choose to do within those circumstances.
That's right, because I've told other people with my disability that happened, the spinal cord injury after I got injured. I tell I'm sure you may have heard this. People would say, "Well, I couldn't do what you're doing," and I would tell them, one, you don't know because you're not in my situation.
Exactly.
If you were put in this situation, I think I'm a firm believer that sometimes we're put into trials for us to find out how strong we really are. I'm a believer of that. That
Right.
we can learn to get through this. But again, as you say, choice. I tell people, yeah. Well, I had two choices in life. One, I can lay around, do nothing, and let someone water me like a vegetable, feed me like a vegetable, or and watch the TV that they're watching because I can't change the remotes.
Right.
Or I could do the hard thing in life and do the best I can and
Yep.
go there from there. And you have done the same thing as me with the decision, decide to take the hard route and do the best that you can and to help out mankind in some way.
It also goes into not only once you make that choice, it goes into your mindset that can help make those choices because it's kind of like, are you going to be the victim or try and be a victor and strive through it to thrive, strive to thrive? And are you more of a, I'm not saying you may not have days where it's harder and you're more of a pessimist, but you're still choosing the perspective of I'm going to see it half full, half empty, or be an optimist most of the time or a pessimist. And I'll be danged if they're going to make me a victim. I'm going to try to be a victor in this. So.
Exactly, and I got another book that I worked on. I hadn't worked on as much as I had this one, but the title is somewhat this is "Don't Survive in a Valley When You Can Thrive on a Mountain." And
Oh, I
so,
like that. That's a good title.
oh, thank you. So we can all survive in the valley and pitiful
Yep.
me, why me, and everything. But why survive in there when we can thrive on a mountain and do the best that we can and stay positive and go from there?
Right.
So, all
No,
right.
that's
Now,
not easy. I'm not saying that, but it still comes down to what do you want?
oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's not an easy course. That's why I say take the hard route. It's not an easy way to go. But what do you want in life? What can you do to get to that point in life and achieve it and everything and be as happy as possible? And knowing, you got your two children, you're setting a great example for them to be able to push forward in life. And it can only give you an applause. I wish I could stand up. I give
Mhm.
you a standing ovation, but I'll give you a sitting ovation.
Very
So
kind of you,
more
sir.
power to you for
Thank
that, and you setting a great example for your children. So,
Ask me when they're 18 and 21 and not on Dr. Phil.
there you go, Dr. Phil. So, all right, Dr. Phil is another topic.
Yeah.
He made a comment with
Or
this
any
other.
version of those shows, you know.
Well, I understand, but he made a comment with about this other group of disability people. The guy, he's disabled, and then beautiful young woman has fallen in love with him, and he's made some comment, and boy, he really threw the disabled people. And then, of course, this was 2 3 years ago, but he threw them for a loop, and it got them going for a while. So
I've been too occupied and distracted to pay attention to things like that, so I probably missed
I that
halfway.
that that's me. I've seen when I first got injured. I've seen people that'd be 3 inches of snow outside in Nashville, Tennessee, and there's no ramp to get into a restaurant, only steps. And so they want to, at 14 degrees, want to sit outside and protest the restaurant and make them bring a table out to them and feed bring the food outside. And they're protesting this restaurant. And I'm going, and here's the news coming over there to videotape that they're not. No, you're making yourself look worse than the people that are ignorant and don't know to put the ramp up. I mean, if you want to help them out, go explain to them, hey, you're not meeting the ADA codes.
It's
Here's
okay.
what you need to do.
I thought
There,
the ADA required all that. I thought there was legislation on the books that required it, so they're in
well,
violation
there's
of it.
there's some in the
Yeah,
laws that the building is grandfathered in because being so old,
got it.
and so they
There's holes in that legislation anyway. It's not as good as it used to be, and it needs to be fixed and reformed. But whatever.
exactly. So,
It
but
is.
I think that people when they come out and there's 3 inches of snow and 14 degrees, you're looking worse than the people that don't have a ramp, and
I'm not
you're making all of
I'm
them look bad.
cold.
Yeah, I said I'd much prefer doing it in the summertime where I
Yep.
can work on a tan. But no,
Yep.
no, they look. I think they look worse than the people that are misrepresenting not having the ramp. But that's another topic.
I
So,
promise you, I'm staying inside my house where it's nice and cozy, and not be out in no 14 degrees because I don't like it.
amen, sister. So, amen. All right, now, so let's talk a minute about what type of supporting system do you have,
Well,
or had in the past?
Well, it depends on the setting. If it was academic, we had plans in place, and the administrations, depending on what institution you're talking about, had to comply and accommodate. So I always had that. My whole life, I was always having to sit on the front row of the class, and I had extended time on test and other assignments. And I up until I was an adult, I wore glasses. They stopped working, so I don't anymore. And I had other modified technology that I've used in the past. In college, I had readers and scribes and whatnot, the gamut of things. As far as emotionally and psychologically, or outside of the work or professional world or academic world, I have my friends. And when I was married both times, although my husband who passed away was much better at it and was perfect at it than opposed to my first, which was part of the problem. But friends, and that was part of the main reason why I decided to move back to Louisiana, even though it's not my favorite geographical location. For New Hampshire is because when my husband John and I lived in New Hampshire, we were 26 hours away from most friends and family, and so I figured, aside from, I think it would have been better for my children to be near their grandparents to have that extra support. I mean, not that that would ever replace their father, and everyone knew that, but it would be easier if they had something of a support system. And I had a lot more friends down here, and it would be easier to manage things with more options and choices than up north. So
Yes. I agree. We need to definitely be around the ones that love us the most and want to be helping us because they want to see us succeed.
yeah,
So I've said I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for my brothers and mother that they sacrificed so much for me to be
right.
able to be successful. And these people, they sacrifice for us, to whether it's sacrificing their time to help or sacrifice with money, sometimes financially. But these people, they sacrifice for us to be able to have a good life and be successful.
I mean, I had a support system up north that wasn't it. It just wasn't as broad as where, because I lived in Louisiana 19 years before I moved to New Hampshire. So I had much more established, you know what I mean?
Oh yes.
I just thought it was better. It depends on what day it is. I wonder about that decision, but most days I agree with it.
There you go. I understand that part too. So now let me get to this. Again, you've written uh, 6 books now.
Yes, we're fixing to have a
6
second
and
writing and
and got others coming out here in the
mhm.
next few months by the end of the year. So let
Yep.
me ask this: with your eyesight, how are you able to write your books? Do you communicate verbally and the
I
computer types
could
it up?
I could, but I personally don't like that just because the way my brain works as a writer, me working it out on the keyboard helps the creative juices flow. So I could, and I have used software before that reads to me back in the day, but I prefer to actually write it and bang it out and kind of process it out on my keyboard. So what I'll do is on a normal day, since both of my kids are school age, they'll go to school, and then I'll get up and do my little routine after they're on the bus of, I don't know, bathe, get dressed, breakfast, whatever, my morning routine. And about 9:30, if I'm writing that day, I'll write for 2 or 3 hours, maybe four on a good day. And then my eyes say, okay, woman, you've lost your mind. You're quitting right now because we're not doing no more work. I'm like, all right, got it, good. I'll go do housework and other stuff, and then I'll get back to it a few hours later when they've had time to chill out.
There you go. Yeah, when I write mine, I can't go straight. I hear people talking about they could teach you how to write a book and get it published in 30 days. Nah, 90 days. Nah. Again, I'm not like you. I write a little bit, take time off, come back, do it again. When I have a deadline, then I'm pretty good when I have the deadline. But
Well,
if it's wide open, yeah,
yeah,
I don't do it every day.
if you hear 30 or 90 days, one of the main things they're using is what you're suggesting is dictating it. That's how they're able to do it in 30 and 90 days. That's what they're talking about.
What and dictating, but the main thing that I learned from some of them, and again, not that I want to do one that fast, is the main thing is come up with your outline,
Yeah.
and then you can jump around in your writing and what you're thinking of that day. But the main thing to me was the outline. How do you want it to come out, and
Yep.
then put your outline out there. So all right. So, wow, this has been amazing. Tell us how we can all get a hold of you to support you or whatnot with your books.
All of my books are on Amazon right now. Later, I hope to branch out, but right now they're all on Amazon, and I do have a website. If you don't have that, I could get that to you for you to put out to your audience.
I'll put it in the description, the your website,
Hmm.
and then I'll go ahead and find your author's page on Amazon and put that down as well.
If you go to the website, there's an A at the top of the screen, and you click on that, and that's my Author Central page.
All right, good to make it easier for me to find. All right,
Mhm.
good. So I'll get that description in, and if nothing else, I tell people go Google Michaela S. Cox,
Mhm.
and that stuff comes up on Google. So
Yeah.
all right, Michaela, thank you for being here. It's been an awesome program. Again, you're helping someone. Now let me get a powerful statement from you that where someone's struggling, hurting today, and again for them to grab a hold and get through today. If you can give us a powerful statement.
Life is a choice. Figure out what you want and then go for it.
There you go. Nice and simple. Life is the choice. Figure it out and go for it. So, Michaela, I appreciate you being on. Hey, thank you for
For having me.
Haya for coming in. Haya Pratt. Thank you, Somalian, for coming in. And Loretta Hill Wallace, thank y'all for coming in. Anyone else that comes in on the replay, be sure to like and share this out. If there's any way I can help you with anything, you can find and email me. Again, my website is professorofperseverance.com, or again, just Google Professor of Perseverance. And if anything I can do to help you. So, Michaela, thank you for coming in. Keep writing, keep inspiring, keep motivating, keep encouraging people. And again, your children have got to feel blessed to have an example of you showing them how to persevere.
Hope so. We'll see.
I'm sure you're proud of them. They're just as much proud of you. So, again, everyone else, thank you for coming in. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.